Psychologists of Reddit, what made you realize you were treating a psychopath? Here is what Redditors have to say. Clinical psychologist here. At first I didn't know. If anything, given the context, he was more put together than most of my patients. The subject of his criminal past came up. I only knew he had served prison time some years before, not what he was in for. I had met with him a month or two when this came up. Turns out it was 2 separate sentences served. Both were for rape. In both cases he was the exact thing we are afraid of, a guy lurking in a dark alley jumping a drunk girl. He told me about these things, as if he was talking about the weather. When it dawned on me that he expressed no remorse or guilt whatsoever, I got the same cold, gut-wrenching kind of primal fear you feel when you're out for a walk and almost step on snake. When I was a student, we had an interview with a lady that killed her baby child with a handgun because it cried so much that she couldn't take it. At first we weren't told that she was a psychopath, and we were just told to listen to her side of the story. She was reading us from her journal that she made while she was in the institution. Not once did she mention that she was sad that her baby died or how what she did was bad. She was just reading angry thoughts about her husband that left her and turned her in the police about what she did. She was justifying the killing because the baby was so unbearable, and once she mentioned that she was angry and mad that her husband did not believe her, that she didn't have any other choice but to kill the baby. She was very smart and well spoken, and the whole time she was speaking she was trying to make us feel sorry for her for being locked up. We later learned that sometimes she was lying about not killing her baby and other times just brag about it, depending on who she was speaking with. Very normal looking person and very good speaker. Edit. Wow, was not expecting this much upvotes. So to answer some of your questions, I'm not from the US and I don't think her name will matter to any of you. She was not schizophrenic, nor had postpartum psychosis. If she did, she would have felt any kind of remorse about what she did, which she did not. When I said normal person, I meant it in a way that, if I was talking to her in any other situation but this, in a mental institution, I would have no idea that she is a psychopath. She killed her baby only for one simple reason. At the moment it just wouldn't stop crying. She didn't try to hide it or anything. At first she lied to her husband that it was by accident, but then she admitted. Current psychologist working in a prison here. I've worked with 3 individuals I dare say would have met the criteria for antisocial personality disorder within the last 2 weeks. One commonality is that they use behaviors as tools to benefit only themselves. Self-harm not because they wish to hurt themselves, but to use it as a tool to lure staff into the cell to incite violence / gain extra medication / be sent to the SHU, which comes with a status boost. One person offered to get me a comfortable chair when we were in a session, not for my benefit, but so that they could ensure I stuck around for longer to talk with them. A lot of positive impression management also. Sometimes you feel they care, but there's unfortunately an ulterior motive. Not a psych, but I was in the room where my mum was being evaluated. Well, I wasn't in the room. It was like a police interrogation room with the one-way glass. I was there because they needed to interview me for an outsider's perspective. Anyways, my mum got arrested on suspicion to commit a violent crime. To set the scene, she was handcuffed to a table, and she was pissed. She's always had volatile anger issues due to heavy drug and alcohol use. She was being talked to, questioned, all this other stuff. I was there for about 3 hours. She kept running this lady in circles to divert her from the actual problem. She was insanely calm, answering questions about various things that would scare a normal person. She barely showed empathy for anything, and it was terrifying for me to watch. I knew she wasn't right in the head anyways. She was abusive to both my brother and I, but seeing how she handled the situation at hand, I'm glad I got out of there, or it would have gotten much worse. I haven't talked to her in about 4 years, but she's tried to get in contact. I can't trust her, and don't think I ever will again. Not a psychologist, but a nurse who sees way too many psych cases. One time I had a part who was brought in after trying to break into a family's house while they were home. He was on my telemetry unit because his electrolytes were out of whack and he was acting like he didn't remember trying to bust into an entire family's house with them home. He was getting antsy, but the hospital I worked at had a stupid fall risk policy that kept patients in bed, even if they were young/healthy/capable of being responsible for their fall. Mental health patients like to pace, especially when they start to feel like they are using it. So, anyway, I'm trying to keep dude in bed because if his feet touch the floor a loud alarm would go off, pushing his crazy ass closer to the edge. So, I'm in there trying to talk to him and de-escalate. We are talking and he tells me he is a bad person, that his cat was mutilated, and his sister asked what happened to it, and he told her the dog did it. But, he told me that his secret is that he did it. He killed the cat so bad that it looked like a dog ripped it to pieces. He also shared with me that he knew what he was doing when he tried breaking into the family's home, and that he wants to hurt people. Of course, I shared this info with the hospitalist and the psychologist, and, naturally, he was discharged free and clear the next day. No follow up with the law or outpatient psych. Gotta love it. You feel it in your gut first. Using a validated measure and constructing a thorough case history to discuss in supervision. This is how you test your gut feeling. But you feel it often quite quickly. It tends to begin with just a sense that something is off. When you're doing therapy with someone, we tend to build up quite a strong rapport with people. So there's lots of micromimicry going on, and you start to tune in quite deeply to unconscious body language. When you're in this state, sometimes you just start to feel very uneasy, and you can't articulate verbally exactly why yet. This is often because of subtle macro expressions, super fast flashes of emotion, lasting fractions of a second, that we perceive, but don't consciously register. You see flashes of contempt related emotions and burglar smiles, basically emotions related to dominance and deception. The next thing you'll notice is a lot of use of projection going on. This starts quite quickly, usually in an assessment session. I mean, as an aside, being assessed by someone else can feel quite threatening to anyone's self-image, let alone a psychopath's. Quite predictably there will be status challenges, asking you about your credentials, your experience etc, and then often some put downs and eggs with plausible deniability, egg joking that all psychologists are mad themselves, or just turning the tables by asking who's the maddest person you've ever treated. You start to feel on the back foot, and like you're now being assessed by them. As time continues, they will attribute a lot of their own emotions to you as the projection deepens. Egg commenting that you look sad, asking if you're okay, or conversely asking why you got angry just then. As time passes their effect turns from micro expressions to more overt dominance displays, leaning back, smirking, getting up and striding around etc. By this point your initial gut feeling is getting more supportive evidence, and it's time to bust out the validated measures. The biggest sign of all is a general unwillingness to show any vulnerability at all, or to be in a one down position. The engagement will be superficial, often pally or matey, with lots of banter and joking, always flying close to the wind of outright mockery and contempt. They will start subtly and increasingly become overt in their need to control and dominate the therapy sessions. If the therapist maintains an aloof control, the ante may keep being raised and even end up with overt intimidation of the therapist. I'm a mental health professional working in corrections, maximum security facility. In my experience, psychopaths will have this predatory stare, especially when they are trying to manipulate you. It is completely unnerving and hard to describe to someone unfamiliar with this population. They also tend to be narcissistic and overly charming, making a point to be overly friendly with you. I know this look. I knew a drug dealer, and he had this look to him. He would smile and try to be charming and engaging, but his eyes said something else. Usually when people smile, like a real smile, their eyes seem to have life and joy, but his seemed almost dead inside, almost like snake eyes. He'd try every trick to get you to like him, but something always seemed off. Adding to that, he always tried to do something sort of pushy to get his way, like asking for hugs and trying to force it, even when I'd say no. It was always very subtle and calculated. I think that the eyes are always the most telling. When you meet someone like that, they always seem dead and cold inside, even if they try their hardest to seem normal. Psychopaths be in here, taking notes on how to not get caught.